there's the young and old people. And this is very interesting and important to me because as a young person, usually we see older people in decision-making places and positions, and there aren't a lot of young people. And as a person who's within the climate space, I think it's so important to have younger people be represented in that space. And so I'm just advocating for youth to be present, to take up space, to actually start taking up these decision-making roles, and yeah, just to be more involved in that space and to take ownership of that.
Okay, I love it. It's a long title. It's a big title. I actually had the opportunity to read your CV and I was like, wow, pretty impressive.
Thank you.
All right. So why would we be talking about climate justice?
I think, yeah, climate justice is so relevant as we've seen this year. I think initially this year the government had said last year that we were going to have a very abundant harvest.
True.
And then this year came around and it's like, okay, we're in an emergency right now.
Yeah.
And that is because of climate change. That's just one aspect, you know, in terms of like droughts, that's one aspect. There are floods. We've had a lot of cyclones that have been happening, like Cyclone Idai that happened a couple of years ago. Yeah, there have been other cyclones as well. Then there's drastic temperature changes that we've seen across the year. Winters are getting more cold and then summers are getting a lot more hotter. And so, you know, it goes across so many industries. We just think of temperatures, but even the way buildings are built. If you think of Dubai is very hot there, so their buildings are built to suit that region. And then this year there were floods, and it's a desert. You're never thinking there'll be floods there. So it's just so important to think about climate justice and climate change because we're now experiencing different situations that people hadn't really thought of before. So it's about adapting and making the best preventative measures and solutions to that.
Okay. Before we go any further, just what was it that inspired you to get into this? Why did you choose this as a career path?
So I do enjoy nature a lot. So what happened was I actually wanted to be a clinical psychologist when I was in high school, primary school, high school. And then I started volunteering with Rotary or Interact. And just being in that space where you're helping, you're volunteering with orphanages and old age homes. And it was something that I really enjoyed because I realized if I go into the development space, I can help more people beyond like you know, when clinical psychologists are dealing with patients one-on-one, whereas a development practitioner, you're like dealing with systematic change. So there was that aspect. I also joined MUN, Model United Nations, which is a simulation of the UN, and I really enjoyed that.
Oh, wow.
And then university, I did environmental science and politics. After I graduated, I worked for an agribusiness in Zambia. And what was interesting was working for this agribusiness, and there was a big drought that was happening. This was 2019, 2020. And seeing like a big farm, thousands of hectares, struggling to irrigate crops.
Wow.
Having to pump water, borehole water, and that being a solution, that was very drastic, and it didn't really sit well with me.
Right.
I just missed something, just reversing to when I was in university. I was in Cape Town, and back then there was the Day Zero talk where Cape Town was on the verge of running out of water.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And I was a student there. I lived in a flat. There were like 5 of us, and you know, the measures that we had to take to conserve water, that also had such a big impact on me.
Right.
Yeah.
You're at UCT?
Yes, I was.
Brilliant. Okay. So in your line of work, what would you say your main responsibilities are? What do you do? If a normal day at work, what is it? What do you do?
I mean, each day looks different. So currently I'm working on just transitions and climate finance issues and justice, intergenerational justice and gender justice. So projects are different. Usually I'm just working on campaigns. I'll work with different organizations, do mobilization campaigns. I will recently, I've been working on policies, international policy. So in June, there's a UN conference called the Subsidiary Bodies of the UN. So we're currently coming up with a policy draft that we will share there, and that's what we'll use to advocate for justice, just transition justice, climate justice, intergenerational justice. Sometimes I'm just at conferences as well, so it's never the same. There's just so many different things.
Just depending on the project you are on.
Yeah.
Okay. So if somebody wants to get into this field, what kind of advice or what steps are needed for them to take to get into this field?
Well,
would you advise it?
Yes, I would. Definitely,
right.
definitely.
Right.
We need more people within that space. And I'll also mention that you can be an advocate for industries, specific industries. You can advocate for that. So let's say in a corporate white-collar job, you can start implementing ESG or environmental social governance practices. That's really becoming popular. I think this year there was there's a push for companies, publicly listed companies, to issue out ESG reports, having a renewable energy grid. What else? Like working with communities, local communities, empowering communities. So you can do stuff within your own industry, but within the development space, there's, I think, start out like the way I did, just start out by volunteering, working with different organizations, especially as a young person. There's a big push for youth participation and inclusion. So you can find any organization that's within your city, within your region, start participating there. Then you can go into your scholarly, your education. You can go into international development, but also you can do whatever you want to specialize in, like business analytics. You can learn that and then specialize in that. Go into these organizations as a specialist, whatever skills you have there. So I would say complement that with working with organizations, volunteering with organizations, and then build those relationships. Once you build on those relationships, it's very easy to go into the space.
Right. Yeah. So it's one of those jobs which is not rigid in time, like a 9 to 5, and I assume there's a lot of traveling involved. Is it remote work, or do you have to be on site all the time, or what? How does that work?
It depends with your role. So like I said, you can be in a different or specific industry. I'll take computer science for example. You could work for a NGO, and I would imagine that you're basically located within the office.
Right.
But then there are times where you're working on a project where you're working with remote communities.
Right.
So in that instance, you would travel to the communities, actually engage with them, actually understand what sort of problems they're experiencing. And then, so it depends. You could travel a lot, or you could be based in the office.
Right. Depends on what project you're taking up.
Yeah.
Okay. Man, oh man, a lot to digest. A lot to digest. Okay. We're going to take a very short break. Yeah, it's an interesting topic. If you are considering going into something career-wise, maybe you are just uncertain of what you want to do, maybe just keep tuned. This could be for you.
Speak louder, stronger, and further. According to the Zimbabwe All Media Product Survey, 100.4 FM is the third most listened to urban radio station in Harare and Bulawayo, and in Zimbabwe, making it the first ever provincial radio station to achieve this. Thank you for your continued support. Capitalk 100.4 FM. We are Harare's heartbeat.
Bone on Capitalk 100.4 FM, Harare's heartbeat.
All right, we're live in studio with Tino, and we're discussing professions. So, Tino, what is it about being a development practitioner that you fell in love with? And also, can you share a defining moment or experience that solidified your commitment to climate justice and sustainable development? Two questions at once.
Yeah, so the first question was what I love about the development space.
Yeah.
I think it's just the different experiences that I have. I'm learning so much. You meet so many people, you work with so many people. Like I said, each day looks different, and I really love having different experiences. I don't like that monotony of just doing the same thing every day. So yeah, and yeah, I'm learning so much. So yeah, that's what I love.
That's great. That's brilliant.
And
the second part of that, yeah,
definitive moment.
Yeah,
I think it really was that 2018, 2019 period for me when I was in Cape Town. The water situation, and it was also devastating because so Cape Town is a lovely place, but there's also a lot of inequality there. So I was studying environmental science at the time and politics, which is to do with power, and then you actually step out of the classroom, and what Cape Town was trying to do was to minimize people's usage of water, and so they put like caps on how much water you could use. But what was interesting is they're like small communities, like shack communities, where it's like you just build a shack and then there's just so many shacks, and that's a community. And what would happen is you'd find people, or at least authorities, going into these spaces saying don't use a lot of water. But the thing is, the community didn't have access to water to begin with. So the practices that other people are now implementing were practices that these communities were doing already. And then you go into these very lush and well-off communities, suburbs, where people, like, they start watering their lawns in the evening, where police can't come and punish them. Just seeing that injustice was just awful, and it really just showed me that I need to do more. And then another, just a quick example, another experience when I was living in Zambia, there was a lot of like power, energy insecurity there, a lot of power outages. Nothing. Right. But people would cut down so many trees and burn them to make charcoal. And charcoal was a cheap alternative for energy, and it was just so sad seeing so many people just destroy the environment, not realizing the impacts.
Okay, so I'm getting into my A levels now. I'm deciding and saying, okay, this sounds interesting, I want to get into this. What subjects am I looking to do?
To be honest, I think the development space has a bit more flexibility. So with me, I did biology, geography, and history. And whenever I tell people my combinations, they're like, it's always, and I'm like, it made sense to me also, because I get that experience, that geography experience, that biology experience. The history helps with the political power dynamics as well. So it made sense to me, and it worked for me. And other people can do that. And the other people, like, you can strictly do like arts, history, accounting, business studies. You can still get into the development space. And then there's the science space where you can do chemistry, you can do, I guess you can do physics, but I'm thinking chemistry, biology, maths, and you can actually do something more on the science side. You can become an ecologist. You can start working in conservation, actually working
Do companies offer internships, or how does it work?
Yes, companies offer internships, and in Zimbabwe, normally they start offering internships when you're in your second year and in your third year, especially in your third year towards the period when you, well, third and fourth, when you're starting to graduate, work towards graduation, when you're writing your dissertation. But yeah, if you start developing those relationships early, you can actually secure internship earlier on. But there are many internships for people that are within the undergraduate and postgraduate stage.
Right, right.
You can work whilst you're studying.
Oh, that's brilliant. Is it mandatory or is it a choice? I can do it if I want to, or do you have to do it?
I think it depends with your program. I know UZ definitely it's mandatory. There was a young lady, I was actually at the Ministry of Environment for another program, and there was a lady there who was applying for an internship, and she said it was mandatory. So she had actually come with a letter from a professor. So your professors can write letters for you, then you just go to the ministry. If it's not the ministry, you can now apply with like private companies or NGOs.
Okay. Is in environmental development services. Is it? Can you get into that space still?
Yes, there's a big movement for that actually. Intergenerational justice also covers that. So it's beyond ages. I know I'd mentioned ages, but it's beyond ages. It's like everyone. It's inclusive of everyone. So even if you're persons with disabilities, I think there's a big space for that. That's something that's really being pushed, because normally people with disabilities have been overlooked sometimes or not considered enough. So there's a big space for that. I know UNICEF has a program that they started, I don't know if it's recently, like this year or last year, but they were actually looking for people that had disabilities. That was, if you didn't have disabilities, it wasn't really open for you. So there are programs that are specifically for people with disabilities.
Okay, that's brilliant. Okay, coming back to it, what skills would you say, as a person, what skills would you say you need for this kind of a job?
Yes, that's a very good question, because sometimes, or at least a lot of companies are saying that they aren't finding, or they're struggling to find people with enough skills. But within the development space, you really need to be good with working with data analysis, data management. That's a big one. And I don't think people are getting enough information on that. I mean, I got out and I had a bit of knowledge on data analysis. I needed that for the job with the agri business. But later on, when I was actually like pushing for the big NGO jobs, I then realized that that was a skill that I was lacking. So I think people who are studying should really look into looking or practicing and perfecting your skills in data analysis. Then there is project management, because you'll be doing a lot of projects. There's partnership management. You'll be working with a lot of partners, a lot of stakeholders. I guess managing, like financial management. Sometimes you'll be in a position where you'll be given grants or a budget to work with. You really need to be cognizant of how to manage money, how to run stakeholder management and financial management.
Are the skills, maybe you feel somebody, if you feel I've got those skills, I'm good at that, I'm good at handling this or that, then this should be the field you should go into.
Oh, and technical writing. You'll be writing lots of reports. Lots of reports. So
Okay. All right. That's brilliant. Okay. Yeah, it is fairly interesting, of course, in terms of getting into this space. How can young people be more involved in the climate space and decision-making process? How can they get involved in that space, young people?
Yes, that's a good question. So I think start off where you are. Really start off where you are. If you're in school, approach your teachers or just people in authority and tell them, listen, I'm seeing climate space really booming and it's becoming a very big topic. I really want us to work or implement a program or start a club on that. So you start doing that, you get a lot of experience. As you're doing that, also just reach out to organizations. There are lots of organizations that want youths to participate. So look out for that within your area. If there aren't any, start them. And just build a lot of experience. Document all your work. Because you'll approach someone wanting money to start a project. And normally they'll be like, okay, what have you done?
Right.
Show us what you've done. And that gives them confidence to give you money. So that's in schools. I mean, if you're not in school, still same practice. I'm actually a part of this organization called Women's Coalition of Zimbabwe, and a lot of women throughout the country, so many towns in the country are part of that organization, and they start their own initiatives. So I went to a conference that was hosted last year, and I actually learned that there are a lot of women that are doing organic farming, and they're actually teaching other younger people and just people within the community about organic farming. I actually learned from them you can use cabbage as a pesticide for tomatoes.
Oh, okay.
Like
there we
an
go.
organic pesticide. So it's, yeah, something may seem small, but just do it anyways because you learn so much. It also triggers curiosity for you to learn much. It also gets other people interested, so you start coming together, unionizing together and building on that. Yeah. So I'd say start and just reach out.
Okay. You said if there isn't anything happening within your community, start something. Can you elaborate? Give an example of what could you suggest if I want to start something in my community? I live in a suburb somewhere in Harare.
I think a project that I really love is called Kuwadzana Greening Project. It was started by a young man called Tafadzwa. So what he did, he just started a project, and what they do is every now and then they get the community together and they plant trees. So you're planting trees, but you're planting with different people. It doesn't matter who you are. Come, let's plant trees. And then you're also teaching people why it's important to plant trees. There's also litter initiatives, picking up litter. And I know people get told, don't litter. And no one really knows why you don't litter. Or they don't fully understand. So the thing with litter is, once you throw litter and it is exposed to the heat and it's breaking down, it actually releases this gas called methane. So we know when we talk about climate change, it's always carbon dioxide.
Correct.
And what carbon dioxide does is it traps heat and it makes the earth hotter. But methane actually is 26 times more potent at trapping heat than carbon dioxide. And I don't think people know that I'm throwing away litter and actually amplifying climate change. So it's doing these projects, picking up litter, and also teaching people that when you litter, you're actually contributing to climate change in this way. So it's doing these small things, but also teaching people and then building from that.
Okay. Quite interesting. I am talking to Tino Chikwana, who is a development practitioner. Few more questions coming your way, but we're going to take a short break and then get back to it.